Big come down. Chris Stapleton, Parachute, Kicks 105.5. A great day to you. I'm Sean Knight. Joining me now is Mike Bear from Barrett Insurance Agency. Good morning.
It wasn't really a big come down, to be honest with you. It was like, dum.
Dum, dum. Sort of the end of every Mexican song. Bum, bum. So, good morning to you, my friend.
Good morning.
So my daughter is leaving for Michigan bright and early this morning, and we had talked about going through Canada, saving some time, and you said just come in and get a hand-typed yellow, orange, something like that. Yellow, which is one of the only things you have a typewriter still for.
Correct.
She decided to go down and around, go visit my aunt in Erie, go to the casino at Presque Isle on Lake Erie, and then continue through. Is there anything that she should be aware of just staying in the States going over to Michigan?
No, nothing of concern. And, actually, that brings up a really good thought. So, did you know that, and I think you do, but maybe you don't, every state in the U.S. has their own insurance regulations?
Yes. Well, my second question for you is, I lived in Michigan. I was a truck driver for Cadillac, and they have something that is the dumbest thing I have ever heard of. I still to this day don't understand it.
What's that?
It's called no fault. And no fault is if I crash into you and it's my fault, there's no fault.
It's no fault. That's why there's personal injury protection, otherwise known as PIP,
now,
which is similar to medical payments in our world. So.
Now, you pay for your own insurance, which takes care of you.
Right.
Do you think that that's a good idea?
I'm not necessarily a fan, but apparently a lot of states are, because New York's a no-fault state. I believe Massachusetts is a no-fault state. There's a bunch of them around. I didn't know Michigan was, but now I do.
If she wants to stay out there for a month, no problem, right? And insurance in Vermont covers her there in a no-fault state.
Yeah, so
insurance
will, when you think about the insurance regulations and insurance laws, because they can vary state to state to state, your insurance will respond in the way that's appropriate and legal within the state you are driving.
Okay.
Which is why we say if you're going to Canada, get a Canadian ID card. There's not a lot of differences with driving in Canada necessarily. There is.
You want to know why?
Why?
Because 60 miles an hour, I figured out, is not 200 kilometers. I was like, what do you mean I'm driving 93 miles an hour? I don't understand.
This is great.
Subtract 15, add 12. What?
I got to Montreal in 10 minutes. It was awesome. It's just the way it's going to work, is that your policy will respond in the way that's appropriate and legal within the state that the accident occurs, because it's going to be those laws that govern the adjusting process of that accident. And that's why the territory of an auto policy is North America minus Mexico. So there's a little bit of a difference there. You actually need to specifically add coverage to go to Mexico.
I would not recommend. I've been to Mexico many. I actually used to go like every weekend when I lived in Arizona, and I had a beater car and I didn't care. With my new cars, I would never dream of going down to Mexico. I had my window cleaned 43 times, 2 miles. I only went 2 miles in traffic, and I ended up with enough chiclet gum to last me a lifetime. Showing some now.
Is that why you keep offering it to me? Every week. Hey, you want some chiclets?
6 months in state, 6 months out of state. Let's say I'm the typical, person who comes from Florida. I hang out here in Vermont.
Snowbird.
Yep, snowbirds. What is the law for if I'm a Floridian? Do I buy Florida insurance for 6 months and here for 6 months? Do I just buy it in Florida and then, as you were just saying, it applies to the state? So are there some things that don't get covered in Florida that should be covered in Vermont?
Again, it'd be compulsory. So whatever's required and to be legal within the state you're in is what's going to happen. But
you've got to know. I mean, you've got to have a couple.
Oh gosh, yeah. So
people.
What it is it comes down to where is the vehicle registered? Is the vehicle registered in Vermont? Well, then you have to have Vermont insurance. If it's a Florida vehicle, you have to register it in Florida. You have to insure it in Florida.
One way or the other? Who you know the loophole? Tell me the answer.
Would you rather have Florida insurance or Vermont insurance?
Well, I'm asking you, is it cheaper in Florida?
Take a quick gander.
I think it's going to be cheaper in Vermont.
There you go. Yeah, it is.
I was right.
Yeah. Now, that being said, companies have their own little underwriting guidelines. Progressive's a great example. Progressive says, look, if you have a car registered in Vermont and this car is not in Vermont more than half of the year, it's somewhere else, you cannot have a policy with us. Because companies don't want people taking advantage of that loophole necessarily, because if you are driving primarily in New York City or in Miami, Florida, or in Phoenix, Arizona, you should be paying an appropriate amount for the risk of and the exposure that you have on a regular basis. So
not the 12 people and 2 cows here in Vermont.
Right. I mean, if that was the case, everybody would register their car in Bangor, Maine, and
Walla Walla, Washington, all of a sudden had a huge rate of
all
insurance.
of a sudden you're driving through the roads of Beverly Hills and everyone's got Maine plates on their car. I mean, it's confusing. So there are. But it's a dialogue. You know, companies like the Hartford, they are the company that like to insure AARP members. They have a great deal for them. They will take snowbirds all day, every day, just about no limitations.
Yeah, because they know they have money. Retirement money. Come and talk to me, baby.
So you got to kind of look at your options. Right. And there are companies that if you have an accident and you've been kind of out of state for a long time and you still have Vermont policy, that could trigger what we call a non-renewal, saying, look, we have now discovered that you are no longer primarily in Vermont. We are not going to renew you at your next policy renewal. Mike
Barrett, Barrett Insurance Agency. If you have questions about your policy, give him a call today. It's always free just to chat.
Yes.
So, what's your number?
It is 748-5224. We're also located on Portland Street in St. Johnsbury. You can visit us online, thebarrettagency.com. Plus, Google, Facebook, and YouTube is all Barrett Insurance Agency.
Bye-bye, buddy.
Have a great day and have a good fair.